Let's now speak to someone who lost his wife and mother during the pandemic, who attended the hearing actually earlier. Charles Persinger joining us once more. Charles, thank you for your time. I'm just wondering, in the round, what you've made of what you've heard from Matt Hancock. Does it reaffirm what you already thought, or have you actually gleaned more evidence about what is clearly a failure on Matt Hancock's behalf?
Well, it's very clear to the bereaved families the incompetence and lack of planning from the government that's showing today. It was interesting to see that Matt Hancock finally admits that they hadn't planned properly, and there weren't no strategies in place. You know, it's rather disturbing for the families to realise just how badly the government performed. You know, at the end of the day, Matt Hancock's a man who's got a questionable reputation, and he stood there talking about integrity. For families, that's questionable in itself. I never divorced my wife. My wife died. I never cheated on my wife, you know. So, yeah, I don't take much account of what that man says.
Do you actually accept his apology, however?
No, it's way too late for an apology. That man, you know, he broke rules, the rules he made, his government made. I felt the apology was completely insincere, to be quite honest. 3 years down the road, it's a bit too late to apologise.
What did you make of it, Charles, when he said that the system wasn't fit for purpose, but then suggested that this wasn't just the UK, it was a problem right across the Western world?
Well, yeah, that's right. But, you know, this inquest is about the UK. They need to focus on the UK and where the issues lied. It was our people who died in the UK. It was British people who died in the UK, and it was our citizens who suffered, you know. And obviously, the global impact has had an effect on us. But, you know, let's not blame share. Let's accept our share of the responsibility. That would be the steps moving forward. Yeah,
and perhaps is there an element that yet more questions are being asked as to a result of what we've heard from him today? For instance, this admission, he said, that the system for running adult social care was flawed, in nowhere near good enough shape when the pandemic hit in 2020. And yet it was the government who then made the decision to release people from hospital into the care homes.
Yeah, it was absolutely horrific. It was the crux of why my mother and wife are both dead.
Indeed.
Obviously, you know, my wife was care home manager. Infected patients were released into her care home, leading ultimately to the death of my wife and her patients as well. You know, the decisions were never made. There was never a robust plan in place. That's becoming quite clear during the inquiry. I think as days go on, more will be revealed.
And on that basis, what do you want to see emerge from this? I mean, we keep hearing this phrase, lessons to be learned. Should there be a template now established to deal with any kind of eventuality?
I think there's something that the government has a duty of care or responsibility to their citizens to provide that protection and some form of template, like you said. Yeah, they definitely need to look at that, and they need to put a more robust system in place. You know, we were failed badly. We just look at the number of deaths. You know, 220,000 dead globally. That's not so good.
No. One thing that Matt Hancock suggested was there should be a government minister solely responsible for resilience across the board. But, I mean, it begs the question, you know, they were in power, or still are in power, for a number of years. Why wasn't this thought about before?
Yeah, I think the part of the reason why we have to have inquests is because we have politicians who aren't willing to accept accountability or responsibility. And that's why us as a public have to have these inquests to force these people to be held to account. I mean, it's really important we do better in the future. We can't repeat this again. You know, there was no excuse the first time. There certainly won't be excuse the second time.
And on that basis, of course, still a continuing debate outside the inquiry about the, as Matt Hancock said, the associated failure to think about countermeasures, mandatory quarantine, shielding, social restrictions, border control, all those things that some critics see as being anti-freedom, if you like.
Well, To a degree, it's how you implement these things at the end of the day. When there's a public health crisis with an asymptomatic virus that's spreading rapidly among the populace, you have to do something. You can't just let it rip through the population like they did. At the end of the day, steps have to be taken. Measures and mitigations are very, very important. They're still not doing enough, in our public settings, such as HEPA air filters, masking, other stuff like that they can do very cheaply and effectively. Even HEPA air filters is a great start. It's a non-invasive mitigation that can save lives and would save lives.
And when you were at the hearing today, weren't you, Charles? I mean, when you saw Matt Hancock, I know there was one widow who confronted him. Did you say anything to him? How did you feel when you clapped eyes on him?
I felt numb. I felt like I was looking at a man, quite frankly, there's a man that I would not associate with.
OK. Well, thank you so much for talking to us. I know it's not easy for you, but we really appreciate your thoughts on this. Very difficult day, very difficult weeks and years to come for you with this inquiry, which is scheduled to go on for a very long time. Matt Hancock.
It's going to be a long fight. It's going to be a long fight, but we're not going away.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for talking to us. We are just staying with pictures from the inquiry where we were expecting the former Health Secretary to be leaving.